Alright, what is up guys? Back again today with another training session. Today's session is going to be hamstring focused legs. Starting out here with a couple of warm-ups on my lying leg curl. Just started off on a new machine today, actually switched to this one from a different Nautilus leg curl that I was using. I just wanted to give this one a shot, see if I liked it, and I really liked the resistance profile on this by comparison, so I'll probably end up sticking with this one. Had to take a little bit of a weight regression on this movement this week, just because I moved to a new machine and it's a little bit harder. Again, feels better on the hams, so I'm going to stick with this one, but moved down a little bit in weight. We do 4 sets here to start off the session. Goal is 8 to 12 reps for every set. First 2 sets here were just, I don't remember the weights. I don't write my warm-up weights down, but they were pretty light, and then a little heavier for 2-3 reps, whatever I got there. And then we're moving into the working set here. I actually ended up doing an extra set this week. This is, I think I did 150 here, and I only got 7 or 8. And I didn't write that one down. I was a little lower than I wanted to get for my rep goal. So I dropped the weight and just pretended I didn't do it. Really kind of fatigues me for my other sets, but honestly, still hit good numbers on my other sets. I'll take the extra volume in that extra high intensity set. As you can see though, felt good. So honestly, going into it next week, I might kind of keep that higher intensity, higher weight set in place, and then just do one very high weight set. Drop the previous 3 or the next 3 a little bit. Just to kind of work on the higher end of that intensity scale for that first set, just to kind of get a different load exposure for my hammies here. But yeah, this movement felt good today. No issues with it. Liked the machine a lot. Got my notes on how I set everything up. You can kind of see on a couple of reps here, I start kind of, not too bad yet, but later on, I start kind of throwing my back into it a little bit. Next week, I'm going to kind of try and keep a conscious mindset to flex those abs. You know, flexing the abs, grabbing the handle a little lower, and kind of pulling yourself into that chest pad can help to prevent throwing your back into it and kind of swinging the weight up. I feel like my momentum was pretty good here. My range, my ROM, I'm really happy with. It was just a little bit of that extra back activation I didn't need, and I could tell I did it because throughout the next maybe 2 movements after this, I could feel it. A lot of lower back pump today, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, these feel good. I have 2 leg days in my split right now, so I am 5 days per week I lift. I have 2 rest days, Thursday and Sunday. Like I said in my last video, I'll end up doing a split review or breakdown sometime soon, but my hamstrings and my back, kind of my whole posterior chain, are my biggest areas that need improvement. So we have 2 leg days. One of them is a mixed leg day, but it's predominantly hamstring focused. This is my purely hamstring focused day. We have like one dedicated quad movement here, and then one adductor movement, and obviously calves, but that's it outside of hamstring work. The rest is just hamstring focused stuff. After this, we have a RDL, barbell RDL, which felt really good today. Took a great progression on that, but I'll get to that when we get to that. Here, I believe this is my first set where I dropped the load down, either the first or second one here. I went down from 150 on the set I didn't record to 120 on the first 2 sets, hit 10 reps, then 8 reps. And then on the 3rd and 4th set, I did 100 for 12 and 8. So next week, I think what I'll probably end up doing is hitting 150, seeing if I can squeeze out 8, maybe 9 reps with 150, and then dropping down to maybe like 120 for the remaining 3 sets. See how that goes. But now we are working on the barbell Romanian deadlift. This is my first warm-up set here. I did do a set with the empty bar too. I just cut that out of the video. I do 1 plate warm-up, 2 plate warm-up, and then my working weight, which is just 2.5 plates. 245s and a 25, whatever that is, 285, right? Yeah, 75, sorry, 275. So yeah, top set was 275 for 12. That's the goal, 8 to 12. So we'll be moving up in weight next week. Back off set, or I keep saying back off set, but my second set of these this week was 275 as well, kept the weight the same, hit 10 reps, mid-range. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to keep that weight the same next week or if I'm going to progress that up with my top set as well. We'll see. Usually I don't start changing the weights on first to second set until that second set hits the point where I'm just barely able to get the low end of the rep range. When that happens, then I'll keep it the same week over week and kind of progress it as its own set. But yeah, here's the top set, first set, 275, 412. Really trying to focus on keeping the neutral spine here. I have a bad habit of looking up and forward when I'm doing these. It's just something I have to mentally break myself of, but didn't make that mistake here. Everything looked pretty good. I could probably drop my hips a little bit further back here, but honestly, everything felt fine, so I'm just going to take it. Good weight progression. Overall movement felt pretty good. Momentum out on both ends, not really bouncing the weight around or anything like that. So yeah, good movement, solid session today overall. I would say the only thing that kind of messed with me today was I had a really bad fucking migraine going into the session. Like on the drive over, I started to get like blurring spots in my vision. I was like, holy shit. Like I very rarely get headaches or migraines. And when I say very rarely, I mean like 2 or 3 a year. But when I get them, they're fucking brutal. So this was a little rough because of that. But again, I can't argue with the numbers. And food is up, effort is up. The session feels good. The only thing I didn't mention, I think, at the start of the session here was that this was actually the exact same total time as my last session, an hour and 13 minutes. So pretty decent time to move through this whole session. This was one of the days where I do end up taking a bit more rest overall, just because here for this movement, there's probably 3 minutes between sets for me. Again, I don't time my rest periods, but it's a longer rest period. It's a pretty systemically fatiguing movement. And then I also take kind of a little bit of a longer rest period on my next movement, which is going to be a single leg press. But yeah, this second set actually felt better than the first here on the RDLs. That almost always happens where my second set just clicks so much better on this movement. I'm probably going to start adding in a third warm-up set here where I'm take my actual working weight and just crank out like 2 or maybe 3 quick reps with it just to really kind of feel that exact weight I'm working with and see if that helps that first set lock in a little harder. But now moving on to the single leg press. I was really not happy with my movement watching this back. I set up kind of uniquely for this with one leg thrown over the side of the machine. You'll see it better from, when I do my right leg here, but I can definitely squeeze some more depth out of this movement. My left leg here I start with because it is my weaker leg. I do have a very slight discrepancy between my left quad and my right quad, where my right quad is dominant. So trying to lead with the left so that I can match with the right and we can bring that discrepancy up, or rather narrow the gap there between my quads. But yeah, here I could probably go for just a tiny bit more depth. Overall though, rep progression here and weight progression for the week, so I'm not super beat up about it. I think next week I will probably keep this weight and end up just trying to really get that calf to touch that hamstring, right? You can actually see here with my right leg, I come to depth a little bit better. Not so much on this set. Again, this is another movement where the first, or rather top set, I'm doing, it's almost like a potentiation set for me. I end up feeling better on that second set and kind of locking in a little bit better. And I think a lot of that I can attribute to just kind of still learning these movements. These are movements I only started doing 6-7 weeks ago. Prior to that, I had mostly bilateral quad work in, and now, I have this, which is obviously unilateral work. So it's a little bit different to set up for that, and it's just something that is kind of unique in the sense that since I have a quad discrepancy, I kind of have to, it kind of feels different leg to leg. So the setup can feel a little bit different over set, but also leg to leg. And you'll see going into the second set here, I actually move my foot over towards the midline a little more, and it kind of helps me to reach a little bit more depth. It felt better here. I'm going to kind of focus on setting up the way that I set up here next week when I hit this session, kind of keep that foot closer to the midline, drive through the heel, but also keep pressure on both the pinky and the big toe here, and really focus on kind of working that outer quad sweep here. This is kind of good for every aspect of the quad, but my focus and what I'm really trying to drive here is a little bit more growth in that outer sweep. And also just to emphasize a little bit more stabilization work here with the single leg. But you can see these last couple of reps, while grindy, I get a little bit better depth. And then here's where my depth really comes up to par on this right leg. On the second set, I only do 2 sets here, by the way, but yeah, that depth is much better. This is kind of what I'm going for. Just getting the top of that calf to touch that hamstring there a little bit. Could probably still go a little bit more to depth, but honestly, it felt pretty good. I'm going to try and aim for just this depth next week and then keep improving on that. 145 for 16 and then 145 for 15 were the reps I took here. The goal range I'm working in for this movement is 12 to 15 reps. So we did nail the rep range on both sets. I think that adjusting my foot on that first top set next week will help me easily blow the reps out of the water next week with the same weight. And hopefully we will be able to get the depth that I'm looking to get to. And then that is just an overall improvement in every single way. Next, the adductor. That's just, something else I need to bring up. Adductors are a big focus for me. So 10 to 15 reps here is the goal. 3 sets. Top set is really heavy compared to the 2 back off sets. But I hit my rep goal. Actually, I went over my rep goal, which means next week we will be progressing this weight. Top set here is 165 for 17 reps. As you can see, when I got into this position here, kind of a trick if you have a hard time opening up your legs enough to kind of get into a good stretch in this movement, slide yourself up the seat or just kind of stand up onto the foot pegs and then open up the machine and slide down into it. And that's a great way to kind of get a good stretch. Just make sure you don't go too far, because then when you're too fatigued to actually contract, if you can't get that contraction and you can't kind of unlock the machine, you're kind of stuck there and it doesn't feel good. But yeah, this was a great movement here, great progression on this movement. 165 for 17 there, and then I end up dropping to 130 and I get 13 and then 11 reps. And something I try to really focus on with all of my movements, but specifically here too, is not to focus so much on touching the pads. I think a lot of people, like on a movement like this or like the pec deck, they really try to make sure they're touching and they think that that's a good cue. It doesn't really do much for you. For me, what I'm trying to do here is pause in the stretch just for a half second, end the momentum, cut the momentum out, and then pause in that contraction for just a second if I can. My priority is to pause in the stretch and then contract and drive as hard as possible. But again, if I can hold in the contraction for just a minute, I will do that as well. And moving into my last set, again, I get 11 reps here. This is a movement that I have just been wildly progressing week over week. I mean, I think I've added 5, sometimes 10 pounds every week since we added this in, again, like 7 weeks ago. So this just feels good. I shouldn't say 7 weeks ago. I've actually had this in my plan for a very long time, for probably 8 months now. But previously I was working in a much higher rep range, I think 15 to 20 or 12 to 20. And I was kind of limiting myself a little bit there. So we dropped the rep range down to increase the load exposure here, and it feels a lot better. The progression is just great. Great pump in this this movement. I know a lot of guys don't like doing this machine, but you can't neglect it if you need to grow those legs. The adductor is so important, and that is what I am working on bringing up amongst all of my other shortcomings. So last movement, toe press on the leg press here, just some calf work, 2 sets here, nothing crazy. This is my highest load exposure calf movement for the week, 380 pounds here. Top set is 22 reps that I get here. The rep goal is 12 to 20, so next week we will take a progression. I'll probably do 10 pounds because this felt really good. Again, this is another movement I pretty much progressed every week on the top set at least. And then my second set here of these, I also did 380, kept the weight the same, kept, straight sets through and through, and got 13 reps. So within the goal range. So both of those sets will go up in weight next week. 22, 13, felt good. Something I, again, like with any other movement, try to focus on here is really keeping it slow, and specifically to calf raises of any kind, pausing in the bottom and then driving up. And you don't have to lock out on the top end. That's not the most important part. The more important part would be getting a good pause in that stretch. A lot of people want to pause in the contracted position because, I think you feel a little bit more of a, for lack of a better word, burn. You just kind of feel the tension in that movement, or in that part of the movement. But the value is really in pausing in that stretch. And that goes for damn near every movement. There are some movements where obviously, the contraction can be extra beneficial to really, drive that. But I would say more often than not, if you had to pick between pausing in the stretch or pausing in the contraction, you should pause in the stretch for almost every movement. Again, there's variability there, but that's what I'm trying to focus on right now. But that is just about it for today, guys. Pretty short session overall, at least edited here. Overall, it took about an hour and 13 minutes. Felt really good. Like I said, other than my splitting fucking migraine, it was a good session. Progressed on almost everything, either in weight or reps or form. The only thing I didn't progress was that lying leg curl, but we're going to make moves on that next week. So until next time, guys, take it easy.